Welcome back to Talk Jamaica. We're streaming live at Talk Jamaica Radio and also at Carib Rhythms Radio. My name is Ricardo Brooks and my co-host this afternoon is Ralston Chamberlain.
Listeners, Colin Campbell has gone public with his bid for the leadership of the Southern St. Andrews seat that is now held by Dr. Omar Davies, who is stepping down in August of this year. Campbell once held the Eastern St. Andrews seat in Parliament, announced his bid a week after news emerged that leader of opposition business in the Senate and former Justice Minister Mark Golding, who is the current vice chairman of the constituency, is intent on taking over the leadership of the constituency.
Mr. Campbell claimed to be the better candidate, especially because Golding was undecided about representing the constituency. He said Golding will have some difficulty explaining why he has only recently decided to enter representational politics. Mr. Golding, who was on this program a few weeks ago, explained that he has been working in the constituency and declared his hand after Dr. Omar Davies announced that he will not be seeking re-election. To tell us more, we are joined by the candidate for South St. Andrew, Colin Campbell. Mr. Campbell, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you, good afternoon, sir.
All right, let me first of all get your reaction to what you would have heard the endorsements of Dr. Davies, Ronald Thwaites, Maurice Guy, Raymond Price for your challenger, Mark Golding. Your reaction to those endorsements and the content of the endorsements?
Well, this election is to select a chairman for the constituency. The voters will be the delegates of the group, the chairman of the group, the current executive members, as well as the cluster managers for polling stations. That's a total of about 83 people. So, the persons from outside, such as Mr. Thwaites or Comrade Thwaites, Comrade Guy, Comrade Price, it really has no impact. It could be for optics, but it has no impact on the delegates. They don't have any influence to the delegates.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Mr. Campbell, you're saying that senior members of the PNP will not have any effect on how the delegates in South St. Andrew vote? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Interesting.
The delegates are delegates that are group members in the constituency. They do not need anybody from outside the constituency to tell them how to vote. It is good campaigning, and you can come and give support to a candidate, but it really does not influence the vote of the delegates.
But what do you make of the endorsement of the sitting member of parliament for Mark Golding? Surely that has some sway over the delegates.
It would have some sway over some delegates, but I don't think it's over a majority of the delegates.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell, Mr. Golding has stated that he was brought into the constituency by Dr. Omar Davies, and so having been brought into the constituency and having been endorsed by Dr. Davies, don't you think
the People's National Party is a democratic institution? We do not preside over kingdoms, and we certainly do not make wills to hand down any part of a constituency to any person. The fact is that Comrade Golding came in the constituency with Comrade Davies in a particularly weak moment for him after he had lost the internal presidential elections, and he assisted Comrade Davies in terms of the constituency executive, but he never ever worked in the constituency. He never organized one PD. He never assisted comrades in the constituency. He just worked as the vice chairman of the constituency and attended meetings with Comrade Davies. That was the extent of his contribution.
Mm-hmm. But you have questioned the timing, though, Colin, of Mr. Golding's putting his hat in the race, say because he had indicated before that he didn't want to be in representation politics. Why do you think that this is questionable?
Well, as you know, the internal elections in South St. Andrews is seen as a proxy for other challenges. And there are some people who feel that the timing of his entrance has more to do with the larger campaign that is being planned against the party president. That is the view of some persons. I merely ask the question, why are you now interested after having stated for years and years that you have no interest?
Mr. Campbell, you made a definitive statement just now. You say the larger campaign that is being planned against the party president. You have information that there is such a campaign being planned against Mrs. Simpson Miller?
I said some see as that, but as far as I am concerned, I asked the question, why is now the right time for you to enter?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you say some see it as that. Do you see it as that?
Well, I think it's up to the delegates. I think that Comrade Golden owes a proper explanation to the constituents as to why his interest. After all of these years, as I said, he has never worked with the people. He has been the vice chairman, but he has never worked with the people. He has never assisted in one single project. He has never assisted a single person. He has never done anything that would indicate to the person, to the people, that here's a person that is interested in representing you at any level.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of the argument that says, quite apart from the supposed proxy war, that this really is a battle between the old style politics and the new style of politics, whatever you conceive that to be? What do you make of that?
Who would represent the old style politics?
I'm sorry?
Who would represent the old style politics here?
Well, the suggestion has been made that you, sir, would represent the old style.
Well, somebody would explain that to me. Because I certainly am not an old style politician. Right? And I've served this party well and for long. Comrade Golding is not a youngster. Right. In case anybody thinks that. He's not a youngster.
And of course, you would have heard the Reverend Thwaites make a comment about gangsterism. Have you gotten any further clarification from him as to what he was alluding to?
No, I am leaving that to the legal people, but it certainly requires explanation to me.
Mm-hmm. Is it your intention to request formally that he clarify?
Absolutely. Okay. And name the gangsters who I am walking with, or who I am mixed up with, or who I am associated with.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Campbell, could you tell us who George Pang is?
He is a member of the constituency. He has served as an executive member. He has been one of the closest allies and assistants to Comrade Davis over the 23 years that he has been there. In fact, he introduced him to the constituency. He has been the manager of the football team. He's a very active member of the community and a person who has contributed immensely to the constituency.
Okay.
You, Colin, the argument is that having lost Eastern St. Andrew and having gone in North Central Clarendon and lost against Pernell Charles, the argument is that you're now looking for a safe seat. What then
that's a nonsensical argument. I am a party member. I have worked anywhere the party has sent me or has asked me to go. I have never shied away from it. I don't look. You go to represent people. It has nothing to do with. I have never ran an easy seat. Mm-hmm. So there's no basis for any such allegation.
So my question then to you, Colin, is what makes you a more formidable candidate than Mark Golding?
Well, you see words like formidable. What the constituency means is someone who is willing to do the political organizational work. The Member of Parliament, right now we are selecting a chairman of the constituency. The Member of Parliament is a matter arising. But the constituency over the years has had a deteriorated political organization because the comrades who have served either as chairman or as vice chairman have not been willing to go on the ground and organize the party so that it can be at its strongest. And that is what is needed now. It doesn't need anybody who can call around and promise about everything they can do and the like. What it needs is somebody who is willing to go down, roll up the sleeves, and work with the comments on the ground. And I think I am absolutely capable and better able to do the job that we have at hand.
And if you are so elected as the chairman and then eventually as the member of parliament, what is it that you plan to bring to the constituency to further the work that Dr. Omar Davis has
been doing? The first thing I plan is to rebuild the constituency organization that can be as strong as it was in the past. In the last election, the PNP got 9,300 votes in a constituency of 20,000. And this is supposed to be a so-called garrison constituency. The party organization has fallen down, the young people are alienated, and we need to get on the ground and do the work.
Mr. Campbell, let me ask you, if a challenge comes to Mrs. Simpson Miller, where would your allegiance lie?
Sorry, you broke up. If a challenge
comes to Mrs. Simpson Miller, where would your allegiance lie?
And it's always with Mrs. Simpson Miller.
And do you anticipate that Mrs. Simpson Miller will endorse you in this race?
It is not usual for our party president to be all over the place endorsing candidates. They have a democratic organization. Persons present themselves to delegates, and delegates do the choosing. It is not usual for anybody to go out to endorse this candidate or the other.
Right. Has she personally said to you that you have her support?
Well, in the conversation that Mrs. Simpson and I have in private, always remains private.
Okay. What of Dr. Peter Phillips? There's some uncertainty as to whether he has endorsed you or he hasn't endorsed you.
Well, I'm going to leave that to Dr. Phillips. I spoke to him yesterday, and I expect a clarification on the matter.
Okay, so he will clarify his endorsement.
I expect a clarification.
All right, Ralston.
Yeah. The contest or the runoff in the constituency, Colin, seemed to have taken a turn for what some would say is not something that is representative of the People's National Party. Yes? What do you think might have led to this?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but, whenever, people people put high stakes on certain contests, and that happens from time to time. You can't get away from it. It's the kind of environment that we live in now. The fact is that even campaigning in South St. Andrew now takes place on national and international stage. It is nothing that we can quarrel about. It's just the way of the world today. And what is important is that we go and we make a good offering to the people. Do not bring false promises. The fact is that we need to reorganize the constituency and to make the constituency strong again. And that's the most important thing for the people of South St. Andrew, from the chairman of the constituency. From the member of parliament, what is important is that we begin to have programs that can begin to relieve the stress of joblessness in the constituency. We have very good social programs. We have good educational programs, but we need to realize that those things are just means to an end, and we really need to connect the person more closely and more actively with job opportunities. And those are some of the things that I will campaign on.
All right, Colin, our producers are telling we have limited time. Can you, in 30 seconds, tell me what you make of this call for a renewal in the People's National Party?
Well, that call is not new. We go in cycles in the party. Comrade Patterson, during his time, always spoke about renewal and bringing in new persons in the constituency. Comrade Simpson Miller herself has spoken about that. Comrade Manley before that. We have to renew ourselves always. It is renewal is not an invitation to be to kick out those persons who have served. Renewal is just the way that you have to do to keep your party current, relevant, and with the necessary human resources.
All right. Can I thank you, Mr. Campbell, for having joined us this afternoon?
Okay. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Listeners, you heard him there. He's one of the candidate for the seat now represented by Dr. Omar Davis, South St. Andrew. He's going up against the sitting senator, Dr. Mark Golding, sorry.
And what I appreciated about this interview, Ralston, very candid answers.
Indeed.
And I think he said a lot without saying too much. I was particularly interested in that answer, that whatever he discusses privately with Mrs. Simpson Miller stays private. One has to wonder whether in that private conversation, Mrs. Simpson Miller would have said, "You have my blessing." But it would be interesting to watch this unfold.
I know, though, that he did indicate that Mr. Simpson Miller being a senior member of the party, they would not drag her into this kind of race. However, the argument is out there that he has been endorsed by Dr. Peter Phillips, who is also a senior member of the party.
Oh, well, but note that Dr. Phillips
denied this.
Right. Well, he says we should expect a clarification.
Clarification should come. Is it that the clarification? I don't know that there is going to be any further clarification than what Dr. Phillips said in the interview on Nationwide on Friday. Yes, I can't see, if you ask me, Ricardo, that anything other than what he has said would come, unless he's going